Billings Republican Roy Brown first got elected to the legislature in 1998 on his promise to cut taxes and state spending. Those are the two main themes of his current run for governor. The former petroleum engineer believes he can beat the popular Democratic incumbent Governor Brian Schweitzer, despite being vastly outspent in the campaign. In tonight's feature interview, Brown tells news director Sally Mock why he thinks the current governor should not be reelected.
We can't continue increasing spending by 41% in just 4 years.
Still ending up with a healthy surplus.
Well, yes, of course. And I think that the reason why we have a surplus are because of the tax cuts that we put in the past. You know, back in the 70s and the 80s, we were a tax and spend state. In other words, anytime we needed more money, we just raised taxes and then we spent it all, and pretty soon we went from prosperity to poverty. Well, what we started doing in the mid-1990s was lowering taxes, so more money was in our pockets. And we lowered the business equipment tax, we lowered oil and gas taxes, we eliminated the death tax, and we lowered income taxes and capital gains taxes. That was the latest tax cut that we did, which went into effect in 2005. All those things together got the economy going and great guns, and it's been going that way for quite some time. Now we're seeing a little setback in the economy around the state, and that is a concern of mine, and I think that that's what we should be watching out for.
The governor says, as you well know, that the cuts in the 90s actually, though, led to the state being sued by the schools because they were being underfunded, because the state share of school funding did drop during those years, and that the infrastructure in the state that things needed addressing got ignored for a while.
Well, that may be his argument, but he sure didn't solve it, because we're still in a lawsuit, and so, you know, nothing that he did any better than what the Republicans did in the past. Now,
well, he did raise education funding, though.
He did raise education funding with the help of quite a few Republicans, too. And so, thank goodness, we had the money to spend on education. But it all went in one-time only funds, so that the operations side of schools funding wasn't properly funded. And we had a program that was based on a classroom model, so that it would have solved the lawsuit. And many of the education community were on board with that model. The governor said, no way, we're going to do it my way or the highway. And he came in and said, here's what we're going to do. We're not going to do your proposal. And consequently, we are still in the lawsuit. Nothing has been solved. And you know, we need to do more as a state to do that funding. I think that the best way to do that is through development of our natural resources. If you look at Wyoming, for instance, they don't have any schools over 20 years old. If they do, they knock them down and build a state-of-the-art school. Their teachers are paid twice as much as ours are. Their university system has a fund set up so that any student that wants to go to the University of Wyoming can have free tuition, because they develop their natural resources. We sue to keep ours underground. And that is not the way we should be doing things.
Not everyone in Montana wants to be like Wyoming, though, wants to have some of the environmental damage that state has tolerated.
Well, there are a whole lot of people that would like to have the schools that they have, and the teachers pay that they have, and the university system that they have. So there's a trade-off all the time as we look at these things. But I think that we have, especially in this university right here, we have some very bright minds that can come up with ways to develop our natural resources in a sound and responsible way, so that we can keep this state as the wonderful place that it is. I grew up in this state, and I love this state more than anything else, and I wouldn't want any damage done to the state whatsoever, and I want my kids to enjoy this place too. So I think we can find ways to do it.
You've chided Governor Schweitzer for his support for coal development and pointed to the fact that, in your opinion, it's been more lip service than action in terms of new coal plants not being built.
Well, have we seen even one approved? No. In fact, the only one that's been on the drawing board, he's opposed. And so there have been no new coal energy projects going on, either by a mine or by power or by train or anything else. You know, in fact, the state of Wyoming increased their production of coal in 1 year more than our total production that we have in our state. They went from 400 million tons of coal a year to 445 million tons of coal a year. Our total production in our state is only 41 million tons of coal.
So if you were elected, you would approve new coal-powered plants?
I would, as long as they're doing the utmost technology with everything that they possibly can to make sure that we are not harming the environment. At the same time,
that's kind of what the governor says, too. The governor says, I'll approve it if you can sequester the carbon. Is carbon sequestration a requirement for you as well?
I don't think it is a requirement, and I think that, when you look at everything involved with carbon sequestration, it's not economically feasible, it's not physically feasible. And so if you make that a requirement, then you have completely stopped all coal development in this state. Now, this is our biggest asset that we have in this state, is the coal. We are the Saudi Arabia of coal, and the governor likes to talk about it, but he appoints people to boards that will never approve any of the projects he's talking about, so that way he can keep both sides happy, and then nothing gets done.
Climate